Yeah. All right, folks. So it is 9 o'clock. We're going to get started. Wake up, Zeph. What we're going to deal with today, you guys should be able to see that. Let me zoom in on that bad boy. That the Forstner bit rack is done. Got a couple more people coming in, so pardon me for a second. Okay, and this pops off. It's a cleat on the back. This pops off so you could actually take it to a drill press or move it out of there for a minute while you're using it. What I don't like about it is the way they have these cleats and the little bitty screws they recommend to use. I don't like them. I don't think they're holding well enough. So I'm going to end up pulling these off and swapping the screws out for something a little more durable. They just aren't holding the way they should. Okay, so what we're going to do next, I'm going to back off of this a little bit. Okay, what I want to work on next is, let's go to the plans and take a look. Okay, so my goal next is to figure out what other bits we're going to place in here. So these Forstner bits are a very common thing that we use. We also use brad point bits quite often. So this block's probably needs to be done. There's also this block here that's for spade bits, but I think what I want to use it for, I want to use it for, pardon me, our countersink bits and VIX bits and things like that. And then we'll have a smaller block over here, probably right next to it. There should be room for it above the Forstner bits for plug cutters, plug cutting bits. So I have some material set up. We're going to get started on a couple of blocks like this. They're 1 inch tall, 1 1/4 inches wide. And I'm not going to worry about length yet. I should have enough to get a couple of these out of it so that we can cut multiple blocks and use them for some of these other items. So let's get ready to get started. And there's somebody else coming in. All right, so we're going to head over to the table saw, where I've got some material ready to go. And as usual, you should have the plans sitting at the table saw with you so that you can double check everything. Okay, so this material is already been thickness. Okay, it's the material we used for the block for the Forstner bits. So it's sitting at 1 3/4 inches thick right now. What I want is 2 pieces that are 1 inch wide and 1 1/4 inches. I guess you'd call it thick. Okay, so I've got a jointed edge already. Right now, since our tape is really messed up under 2 inches, you can't even read it. You have to set it manually. So you take a tape measure, butt it up against the fence, and measure to the right side or the inside, the fence side of the blade. Okay, so I've got it at 1 inch. Get our blade height 1/4 inch above. Got a push stick here. This one should fit through no problem, and we're ready to go. There's one. I'm going to try and get one more out of it. So there's our 2 inch wide pieces. Now we're going to flip them on their sides, take them to 1 1/4 inches. 1.25 inches. Drop the blade down. And here we go. All right, so there's a couple blocks for us. Okay. So we're going to go back over here to the bench. Looks like Zion May got booted somewhere. And another late person. All right, so maybe that's number 2. So what I'm going to do, since we're not using the same kind of bits they are in this, well, some of them we are, but there's quite a few differing bits that we have, and I want to keep in this cabinet, that need to figure out what we're going to put in these blocks. So what I have is I have some of the bits and items sitting here that I know we're going to want to keep in there. Okay, so first things first. We've got a plug cutting set, right? These little guys are for longer plugs, okay? And the normal ones you guys have probably seen are for normal rounded cap plugs. In other words, these bits actually put a little bit of a tiny round over on the end of the plug, makes it easier to insert it into the hole. So I've got those, and there's one missing from that kit, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, that little booger right there is it. Okay, so we've got a full set of that. So basically, what I want to do is lay these out as I would want to use them. Okay, it's going to mount like that, my guess is. Is that what it says? My plans are over there. Hold on 1 second. Like you're going anywhere, right? Hold on. Wait. Hurry up. Okay, yeah. It's actually, they've got it like this. Okay, so it's sitting like this. This will, the one side will be mounted to the cleat. All right, so if we've got a situation like this, actually get these little blocks, since these little blocks come out, check this out. Just like this. Okay. Actually, it's kind of cool. They've got, this is interesting. This is definitely something we could do on the laser. So I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but these little blocks that were in this little wooden case have the sizes of each of the bits on them. Okay. So it's really interesting. I don't see any reason why I couldn't drill these holes and then take this thing into the laser and get the measurements on this piece as well. It makes me think I want the measurements on the block for the Forstner bits also. So I think that's something we're going to do. So right now we've got a length that we need. I think that's a pretty good idea. What do you guys think? Is that a good idea? Zeph, is that a good idea? Come on, Zeph, is that a good idea? You know it is. So it needs to be 8 5/8 long. Okay, so there's going to be that guy. 5/8, half, 3/8, quarter. Okay, there's that guy. And that is the plug cutters. So I got it labeled. And 8 5/8, you might as well mark it so we know how much of this we have left. There's my 1/8 inch blade kerf. I know how much I'll lose when I make the cross cut. All right, there's that. Next on the list of items I want to put in there. So we obviously have plug cutters, but how do we get to the point where we're using a plug cutter? We get to that particular point by using a countersink bit, okay? So these countersink bits also come in different sizes. I'm not sure what sizes I have left because they've pretty much been gone through, but we'll see if we can find, there should be 4 different sizes. And if I don't have all 4 sizes, I'll pick up another set. Those are the same. You guys, you see this? This is interesting. How many of you, when using these little countersink bits, have seen this bit snap off? Put your name in the chat if you've ever seen or know of somebody or did it yourself and had one of these bits snap off in here. I want to see how many people have seen this. This is interesting to me. Why? I don't know. Because there's not a whole heck of a lot interesting right now in this particular climate in this classroom. Not you, Jacob? Max, you've never seen it? Zeph, have you seen it? I know you've seen it. So what happens is, see if you guys can see this. Okay, this part of the bit right here, this is just the pre-drill bit. It drills the hole for the threads on the screw to run through. When you get to this black part, that's where we start to deal with the countersink portion. This tapered part on here is the countersink, and then the cylinder, the tube behind the taper is the counter bore. A countersink, all that's going to do, in other words, let me see, I don't know how close this thing can get in on this bit, but let's see if it can. So I don't know if you guys can see this. I need a white background to put this against. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see this. Okay, I'll try and zoom in a little bit. All right, so here's the deal with these bits. Okay, so it's a countersink bit. It actually accomplishes 3 different things. On all these countersink bits, you'll see a tiny little Allen screw right here, a set screw, that holds this little pre-drill bit in place. Now, one of the things we'll keep in here is the Allen wrench to be able to change these. But so if you extend this bit out using this Allen key, if you extend it out, you can simply use this to drill a pre-drilled hole for a screw. You don't have to incorporate this angled portion right here for a countersink. So it can drill a pre-drilled hole for a screw. Next, if you go in about this deep using this tapered portion, okay, what you're setting up is a situation where the head of the screw can sit flush with the surface of the wood, okay? In just about all of our applications, we like to do not just a countersink, but we like to do a counter bore. In other words, bearing about half or more of this round portion of the bit right in here, past that taper, down into the wood. That allows us to sink the head of the screw below the surface of the wood, then take one of our plug cutters and cut a plug and fill that hole, cover the head of that screw with wood so we don't see the fastener. That's the whole goal. We don't see the fastener. Now here's the problem, okay? Number one, if you use these bits in a handheld drill, all right, you have to go straight down and straight out. The material has to be either large enough where it's not going to move when you go to pull this bit out of the wood, or it has to be clamped to the table. Because if this happens, if for some reason, when you're pulling this out, if the wood raises up, what you've done is you've set this bit at an angle now, and it's going to snap that bit off in your material, okay? It has to go straight in and straight out. On the drill press, when we do this, if you're not solidly holding your material down to the bed of the drill press and it raises up when you go to pull the bit out, it's setting that bit at an angle, trying to draw it out at an angle, and it's going to snap that bit. All right. So I don't know how many of you have actually seen it happen or heard of it happen, but I've actually got proof sitting in front of me. So got a little thing here. This should be interesting. See if you guys can see this. So we're going to back off just a little bit so you guys can see this, okay? All right, so let's head down. All right, so this is my handy dandy little tub of worn out parts. All right, so this is what a normal countersink bit should look like right here, okay? It's got the pre-drill bit mounted in it, all right? Here's one. You can see the tail of the bit, the shank end of the bit right here, okay? But the tip is broken off, so that's useless. Here's one, there's not even a bit in it. Here's another one, there's not even a bit in it. Why do you think there's not a bit in it? Because it broke. Here's another one. Oh, there's two more. But how many do we have here? Let's see. There's another one. This one's good. This one's got a bit in it. So let's put the ones that are okay over here. There's another one that's okay. There's another one that's okay. Wow, we're really moving ahead now. I'll pick another one that's okay. Let's get all the ones out of here that are still all right first. Okay. All right. So there's our good ones. Okay, the ones that still have the bit. Okay, now let's start seeing what we have in the way of ones that have had the bit broken. There's another one. There's a couple more. There's another one there. This one, the tip of the bit snapped off. There's another one with the bit snapped off in it. Okay, this one, the whole bit snapped. The whole thing broke. I don't know what's going on there. That had to be beginning woods, right? Okay, so if you look at this assortment of bits, a set of 4 of these things, 4 different sizes, 20 bucks, 22 bucks, something like that, depending on where you get it. You can spend more. There is a higher end set of these bits with tapered drill bits in them that runs about 35, 40 bucks. So basically what you're looking at here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 100 bucks in bits, with well over half of them being broken. Okay, the same sort of thing happens with these. Let me show you these guys. Okay, these are our plug cutters. Okay, that one's actually new. This one's a really good example of a plug cutter that's gone bad. So any of these bits, it doesn't matter whether it's a plug cutter, a countersink bit, a Forstner bit like we have mounted in the cabinet right now, any of these bits, heat is their enemy. Okay, heat dulls them. Heat weakens them and causes them to break. So using the wrong speed or RPM on a drill or drill press, using too much pressure, trying to drill with too much force in the material, all generates heat and dulls these bits. Every one of these bits are very, very, very difficult to sharpen, if not impossible to sharpen. Hold on, I got somebody coming in way late. So having gotten off track, okay, the whole idea here is this. Using these bits properly in the way they were intended at the right speeds and feed rates is really important to their lifespan. Okay, so there you go. You got that. So we've got these two guys. I'm going to back out here so you can see it. And up a little bit. So we have these two guys. We have our plug cutters. Okay, that's going to take up that space. Now we will get, let me see how many different sizes I have that are useful here. Those are the same. Geez. So we basically have 2 sizes left that are any good. So let me get my caliper out and see what these are. This is going to be our 1/4 inch right here, I'm guessing. What is 47 128? Anybody know? Because that's what this silly thing is reading. Somebody look it up. I can't do that math in my head right now. Okay, this is our 3/8 right here. Okay. So here's our 3/8. This guy right here. Yeah, I'm just going to drop it right in there. That's that one. Okay. This is our 1/2 inch. I don't think we have any other sizes that aren't broken, to be honest with you. Wait. There's a little bitty guy right there. That's another 3/8. So we only have 2 sizes, 3/8 and 1/2 inch. All right, so we need 1/4 inch, so that's gonna be 2 more. All right, that's gonna be 2 more. So we're gonna have 1, 2. We'll just grab two other random ones. 3, 4. So there's our next little block, okay? The next set of bits that we have that we need to find a home for are what's called a VIX bit. And I think I showed you guys what a VIX bit is. A VIX bit is for setting hinge screws, for centering hinge screws. So normally, if you didn't use one of these bits, what you generally have to do is take a center punch or an awl, have your hinge where you want it, make a mark as centered in that screw hole as you possibly can, right? And then drill. With this, these come in 4 different sizes as well. These guys, these VIX bits, automatically center the hole in the middle of the hinge hole. I'm gonna see if I can do this so you can see it. And pre-drill the screw hole as well. That's why there's 4 different sizes. So basically, I don't know if you guys can see that. There's a spring-loaded guy with a little tapered end. That little tapered end centers itself in the screw hole. And when you drive down with the drill, it automatically centers your screw hole and drills it for you. So there's a set of 4 of those as well. Okay, so we've got, let's see what we've got. We've got another, let's call it 5 inches of that for these guys. That'll give them a little extra space. So let's mark our board for 5 inches. Right there. Is everybody asleep yet? I know I just about am. And let's mark it. And this is countersinks. Okay. Then we might as well do another, we'll do 4 inches for VIX bits. Heck, let's just do another 5 inches, make it even for the VIX bits so it matches up. Another 5 inches for the VIX bits. Okay, there's our VIX bits. So there's that block. All right. Next. Guys, hold on 1 second. I'm going to grab the next one. I didn't plan to go this deep into drill bits today, but oh well. Something to do. So this is going to end up being a block all its own. in one of the doors. Now this is what happens. Well, I shouldn't say it happens in a high school classroom because I use bits like this at home too, so it's not abnormal. Okay. So this is our brad point bit set. And there's a couple things I want to talk about when it comes to brad point bits. Why do you ask? Anybody want to ask that? Why? Well, because it's something to do, because I think it's worth talking about. Okay, brad point bits, they are specifically woodworking bits, okay? Now, whether or not you can see this, I'm gonna get these guys out of the way. We'll find out if you guys can see this. I don't know if it's possible, but the camera's doing pretty good. So it seems like it helps to put a piece of paper behind it. Okay, this is a brad point bit, okay? See that little center spur? See that little center spur right there? Okay, and then it's got two very, very sharp tips. These recesses in here, these curved parts, they're flutes. That's what ejects chips as it's drilling. But this little center point is what makes it a brad point bit. And a brad point bit excels at a couple things. Number one, okay, very sharp, very accurate diameter holes, very clean edges, very clean entry for the bit. Exits can blow out just like any other drill bit if it's not done properly. But the really good thing about these bits is that center point allows you to have a mark or a little point hole in your material, and this will find that hole. These bits don't wander as opposed to a twist drill bit. Twist drill bits, which are like these little guys. I don't know if you'll be able to see this. It's pretty small. I don't have a bigger example of this in front of me. This is just a basic twist drill bit, wood metal bit, okay? They tend to, when you drill, they tend to sometimes wander off your drill point where you want to go, especially if you're using a handheld drill. Better in a drill press. So these brad point bits are fantastic for drilling accurate holes in very accurate locations. And how do you make sure it's an absolutely accurate location? Let me show you something. You guys haven't really used these much before. We use them in guitar class quite a bit. I got a mess going here. Okay, so let's say, for example, that you have a situation where you want to drill exactly, and I mean exactly, what we're talking about here, especially in the guitar class, there's situations where you want to drill exactly in a spot. For example, fret dots on the fretboard, things like that. Okay, so we want to make hole at that intersection, all right, and it's got to be dead on. It cannot be off even the slightest bit, because visually, especially on a fretboard with the dots that we place in them, if they're not all perfectly lined up, you're going to see it. It's a definite visual. So what we use, sometimes, we actually found a different way to do it, but these would work good for general woodworking. Okay, this is a punch, all right? It's spring-loaded in here. Basically what you'll do is you'll find the center point with the point of this punch, and when you push down, you hear that pop. That makes a nice little drill point location, so that when you go to the drill press, okay, then the brad point of your bit is going to find that hole, no problem, okay, and it's going to be drilled in the perfect location. All right, so that's kind of the idea behind punches and brad point bits. And what that means is I'll put a series of these. I've got 3 or 4 of these I can put in this cabinet. We'll keep these for general woodworking out here. They're great for that kind of stuff, to make sure you drill in a specific spot without the bit wandering, okay? So there's gonna be a spot for those. So that's our next little guy. I'm guessing we'll have probably 4 of those, and I'll put them in this way. So, I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4 should get us about, I'm guessing 4 inches ought to do it, something like that. Yeah, 4 inches would be fine. So we'll mark that up. And that's for our center punches. All right, center punches. Four inches center punches. All right. So what else? What else? I want to know if you guys have any ideas of things that should be in this drill press cabinet. Individual items, things like that. Singular items, because we'll be able to have some magnets mounted on some of these, some of those little rare earth magnets mounted in the face of some of these things that we can just stick something to that's metal. I'm trying to think of anything else that might be important to have in a drill press cabinet. So any ideas you got, throw them out there, please. What other items do you see being used by drills and drill presses, or in drills and drill presses, that we haven't talked about so far? Anything at all? I just came up with one idea that is fantastic that I can't believe you guys haven't thought of this. Things are removed and put in the, yes, exactly, man. That's exactly what I was just thinking. That's literally the chuck keys. Absolutely. Those guys, okay? We've lost quite a few of them. We have one chained, it's sad that it's chained, hasn't done anything wrong, that reaches the 3 floor drill presses. But I can actually buy these. I may buy some extras, and we'll have a block with a couple of each of these sizes. Absolutely fantastic. That's what I was just thinking of, Lily. Thank you. Anything else you guys can think of that would tend to go in a drill press cabinet? Got to be something else. How about, well, no, that doesn't really work. I was thinking driver bits, you know, like the square drive bits and stuff like that. But we keep those in a block over at the end of the counter. I don't see is where those really apply to a drill press cabinet, something like that. So that's probably a bad idea. I may try to get a couple countersink bits. And what I'm talking about here is it's not the normal countersink bit. All it does is make a tapered hole. Okay, all it does, and you can actually use them by hand too. All it does is make a little V-shaped hole in the material. And depending on how deep you go, it widens that hole. It's an odd little tool. But can you guys think of anything else? Anything else that we might want to make sure and put in this cabinet? I'm almost thinking that this drill index for brad point bits, this might be something we just put in one of the drawers, this large drawer. Let's pull this up. This large drawer here. I'm thinking that, first of all, it needs to be waxed so it doesn't stick. But I'm thinking maybe the drill index, we can have a metric and a standard drill index, one of these guys. I think that should go just in the drawer as opposed to on a block in here. That seems like kind of a mess on a block in there. We can put it in a block if we want to, but I don't honestly see too much of a point in it. But we'll have 2 other small drawers here. I think it asks for, or it calls for. No, it's got a medium and 2 smalls. So there will be some other storage available in here. I'm thinking we'll probably somewhere in here. In fact, we may take, since these calipers, these digital calipers are metal, we may take one of the magnets and put a digital caliper in here so you have the ability to measure a bit and make sure you have the right size bit. That actually does come into play in the guitar class. We have to have specific bits for certain holes that we drill in the body. And it'd be nice to just have this there so that it'll just hang on one of those rare earth magnets. So that's another item we can stick in there. And I'm sure over time, here's a lot of times, just a little bit of paraffin, a little bit of wax, okay, for lubrication of bits and screws is a nice thing to have. So there'll be a few of those sitting in there. We keep a lot of that stuff in one of the other tool cabinets. That actually comes in handy in a lot of ways. Put your name in it, or say something if you've ever used one of these saws. Zeph might have used it. I'm trying to think back of some of the other projects that have done by you guys in here. And this needs to be, this is a Dozuki. It's a Japanese saw, very, very thin, right? it cuts on the pull stroke. And the reason it's so thin and the reason it cuts on a pull stroke is a lot of times these are used for trim work or cutting dovetails, hand cutting dovetails, and it needs a very slender kerf. In other words, you don't want a real tight or a real big kerf on this. So this allows you to do it. And since it's so flimsy, so flexible, it has to cut on the pull stroke, because if you try to cut on the push stroke, this would just bend. And one of the things we always do, or that's a good idea to do with this saw, is to take a little paraffin and just rub it on the teeth, and it's going to cut a lot smoother. Okay, a lot smoother. So there's that. So there will be some wax in there. That's probably a good thing. I can't think of anything else that should go in there. So you did use that saw? Okay. I honestly don't know if I remember to tell you to put wax on it. I probably didn't. But I don't know what time it is. All right, so we're going to get ready to shut down here. So tomorrow, excuse me, tomorrow we'll get these little guys cut, drilled, get the cleats on them, get ready to mount them. I also need to assemble the rest of the drawers. We may do that tomorrow if we have a little time. We'll assemble the rest of the drawers, make sure they fit in there. And then it's a matter of just stocking this thing and hanging it on the wall. And I think we'll hang it in the same way as these guys hang in here. We use a cleat system so the cabinet can actually be moved somewhere if we want to move it somewhere else in the shop without having to take the cleat off and all that. It's a really handy way to mount things. Okay, so that being said, your hump day has started. Your first class of hump day is over. I really honestly do hope I'm not boring you too much. I can't think of what else to do to make this a more pleasant experience and more enjoyable, but I will try. So if you guys have your ideas, let me know. Please make sure your name gets in the chat. It was nice having you here today. Please try to be on time tomorrow. Take care of yourselves, and I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. All right. Bye-bye, Dan.